Writing is about the process. It's about listening and recognizing remnants of your story in the stories of others. When we share our stories with each other, we share the resonance of the human experience. The By Firelight podcast is your invitation to join our circle, a circle of writers, poets, seekers, and storytellers as we capture our living in words. This multifaceted living with joy, grief, love, growth, and loss is shared among us in your legacy, your story. The things you choose to do with your days as they unfold matter here. I'm your host, Betsy Delzer. I'm many things, but in this gathering, I'm a painter, poet, and writer, and I'm honored to be your guide through these episodes. Together, we'll find our muses in the rich and heart-expanding conversations with incredible guests, many who are like minds and all outrageously inspiring hearts. When you press play, you're here in the circle to share this space with us. By Firelight.
Hey friends, I have some exciting news. By Firelight has been nominated for Best Local Podcast in Madison Magazine's Best of Madison campaign. If this podcast has sparked something in you, helped you feel seen, or simply kept you company on a walk or commute, I would be so grateful if you'd take a moment to vote. It's quick, super easy, just the month of June, and it'll help cast a little more light onto the stories we're telling here by the fire. You can vote by heading to madisonmagazine.com, or there's a link in the show notes. Thanks for being here. As always, thanks for listening and being a part of our beautiful stories we're telling. Today's guest is April Kigeya, author, speaker, and unapologetic truth teller. She's the powerful voice behind Couch Confessions, the chronicles of a Black woman in therapy, a raw and honest memoir about healing, motherhood, and mental health. April holds an MBA, is currently pursuing her PhD in business administration, and is a fierce advocate for Black women's wellness and visibility. Known for her viral therapy updates and deeply relatable storytelling, April uses humor and vulnerability to spark conversations that matter. She's a mom to 4 children, 25, 22, 15, and 13, a community leader and a woman who decided to tell the truth and build a movement while doing it. April Kigeya, I am so excited for this conversation today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey, so I love as a form of introduction to ask the question around imagining either your older self or your younger self, and just what would she want to tell us, or in what way would she want to be here with us?
Probably my older self would say that she was happy that I had a lot of fun and that I was unapologetically myself finally at some point.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we have only recently encountered each other IRL, right? In real life. Yep. We were connected on social. Yeah. And I want to just say, before anything, I was the one who was always chiming in like, I would buy your coffee table book because your Facebook posts are so freaking funny.
Thank you.
But you have not done a compilation of those just yet, right?
I have not. No, I know. And you're not the first person to say that. There's some other people that have said, you should take all your posts and put them in a book. And I'm like, I mean, that would take a long time to go back to, because there was a point in time where I would just like randomly post just random funny stuff. And as you know, I'm very sarcastic. I use humor to get through the day, and I would just randomly post stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that would be interesting. Someone also said like I should do like a calendar, like January through December, and just like put my random quotes in there. And I'm like, maybe one day I'll do that. I'll go back and, just pull random things that I wrote and put it into something. But I decided to write a book instead. So,
I mean, I just want to honor this humor because I was literally like laughing so hard I was sweating and a little bit like misty in the eyes before just looking at your Facebook. But if anybody has gone, and I have not done the Real ID yet at the DMV, I need to in a hot
Good
second.
luck.
I just have to share this with the listener because it is you're just so funny, and I know we're gonna get to the heart of things, and it's probably gonna. I was like, should I have tissues around for this one today?
Right.
But here's this humor. Okay, so y'all, why did I go to the DMV to get a Real ID? And apparently I needed. Okay, and then there's the colon. My birth certificate, a bill from 2003, the Declaration of Independence, my great-grandma's church fan, and the ultrasound of my 5th unborn child. Oh my God. It is just like, I have to like fan myself when I'm reading your Facebook posts when they're funny like that. You are hilarious.
So I went in there and I'm like thinking that, okay, I'm getting my real ID. It's just going to be like getting my driver's license renewed, right? Like I just go in there, show my old driver's license, and I'm like, okay, cool. But they needed all this extra stuff. And I'm like, well, what the hell is this? So I'm dramatic and sarcastic. So of course I had to add all that extra stuff, right? And then the church fan, I'm like, okay, I'm Black. So let me think about something from like back in the day. And it was so funny because people on my post, I don't know if you read the comments, but like they went in and started adding like similar things, and it just turned into this whole thing. It was hilarious. I love when people match my energy, and it just became like this. I don't know. It was almost like 100 comments, I think, like on that post. It was
I'm
so
looking
funny.
at you. You got at least 96 comments here and 147 laughs and likes.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I feel like I like digest Facebook in such a kind of like surface level way, but I always look forward to what you're posting. And then, how many months ago was it? Maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago, where all of a sudden you kind of took a turn a little bit from the humor piece and you started getting really real and raw. And I was like, what? Okay, I'm tuning into this like heart opening that you started sharing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was in February when me and my fiance broke up, and I shared a raw moment of when I had attempted suicide. And so that was kind of the turning point when I went from this humor to like this real vulnerable state. Because what I noticed on Facebook, at least from my feed, was that people tend to post all the great things, which is great, right? Don't get me wrong. People post positive things about their life. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to start sharing the not so good things, and I'm going to be vulnerable because I'm going to show my authentic self. So I took a leap, and I really grappled with, should I even share this? Because even my family didn't know. Like my parents didn't know. There was a lot of people in my life that didn't know that I had attempted that. So I grappled with it for a long time. Do I even put this out there publicly? Because I'm like, there's going to be a lot of backlash. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, what the hell? Why am I finding out about this on Facebook? What the hell? So I put it out there, and that post got a lot of attention. And I was really shocked with that. And even like I wrote in my book, there was quite a few people who said that they had experienced that, who have attempted suicide. And there was one, and I wrote this in my book too, this one gentleman in particular that inboxed me and said that he was going to attempt his life that night. But it was my post that stopped him from doing that. Wow. And that I was like, oh my God. So at that point, I realized that, wow, like healing out loud, as I call it, is necessary because it's not just for me, but it's for other people. And then it was at that point. And so that breakup is what got me into therapy, which I knew I needed therapy a long time ago, right? It wasn't the breakup that, the breakup is basically what got me in the door to go to therapy. But then that was a turning point for me because I was like, okay, so by me being vulnerable, it also allowed other people to see, okay, I'm not alone in doing this. Mm-hmm. And then I started posting about my therapy sessions. And then that started building up a lot of traction. And then I was so surprised at how many people would message me via text and messenger and say, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that. I have a similar experience. And there's probably, and I'm not even exaggerating, at least 20 people who have said that they've started therapy as a result of me going to therapy. Wow. Even my own daughter, my 22-year-old daughter, which that one I was like, oh my God. And then people were like, yeah, please keep posting your therapy sessions. I love to hear what you're going through in therapy. Who's your therapist? And it's just been so great because I was really nervous about people being like, well, why are you posting about this? But then I came to realization, I was like, honestly, I don't even care because it is therapy for me to write about my experience. And that's why I wrote the book, because I wasn't sleeping. There was a lot of stuff, mental health stuff going on. And that was kind of how I was able to process everything. But then getting the feedback from everyone on social media saying that's helping them too, I was like, well, I'm going to keep doing it because it's not only helping me, it's helping other people. So then that's kind of how it shifted. I still use humor and sarcasm to get through things, as you can see. But yeah, I guess my posts have kind of shifted just a little bit in that regard.
Oh, wow. Well, there's so much there. First of all, I just want to say, winding it all the way back, like, I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful that
Thank you.
The forces that be kept you here for you and your life and all that you have right now, but also all that you have ahead, but also for the people and the lives that you're touching. It's just incredible what you're doing out of a place of pain and healing. Yeah. So I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Second of all, I think that this vulnerable opening it's so raw and brave. And I think, both from just everything, right? Like the small, big town we live in and people kind of seeing us in a different light and being willing to do that, right? And then also to be sort of still in the midst of some coming together and coming undone, and to be willing to kind of show up in that is incredible. So we have been referencing your book, Couch Confessions. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit more about therapy in the process. Are you down with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking on this walk that I was taking before we talked, I was like, I have the privilege of having 3 sisters who are all trained therapists.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. 2 are practicing. One is no longer practicing by trade. She probably practices in just the way she lives her life, right? So I grew up kind of around, like, immersed in therapeutic conversations. I was analyzed from a very early age. And then, I got married really, really young. And I went to my first like therapeutic experience and counselor trying to process whether or not I was ready to do that at age 20. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And then later, I started with a therapist like in my mid-20s when I was just trying to figure out life. And so basically, now that I'm in my late 40s, I've had a few different therapists and kind of go in on and off. And sometimes my life has necessitated, like, I need, going through a divorce, going through just parenting, I think was a big theme, living through understanding my childhood and what that means for my adulthood, those types of things. So I've had sort of decades of insights from therapists. And one of the things I was thinking about is that it really does offer, as I look back, like a well-examined life. If people were to ask me like, why therapy, why, I never really understood or knew there was a stigma around therapy because it was just in my family and it was something that was like almost like a oil change or car wash. Like
you just do it.
You just do it. You just do it.
Yeah.
And I was gaining so much just with I love going in and having this non-judgmental space to let down. You know what I mean? And just be real. And this person's not going to follow you out the door, have dinner with you. You got this 1 hour. Right.
And then you're done.
You're done. Yeah. So I'm on the other end of like kind of a lot of experience in therapy, and I'll just honestly say, like, without a diagnosis of any kind, I just was wanting to process my life. I think in order to get insurance to cover it, it was always like adjustment something or other. And I was like, okay, I'm adjusting to something, right?
Right.
But yeah, just your experience of going in and sitting on the couch and learning and then sharing has been, there's so many parts of it that I can resonate with and connect to. Yeah. So was it a hard decision to begin therapy in the first place for you? Like, was that something you had said you'd been knowing that you needed it for a while? What was it like to finally make that leap?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the Black community, it's very different, right? So it's like there's this stigma, especially for Black women, that we're strong, we carry the family, and we do it without asking for help. And I kind of reference this at some point in the book that asking for help means weakness. And so it's something that we're not supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So that's why for so long, even though I know that I needed therapy in the sense of like, I can't do this on my own, but like you're supposed to. You're just supposed to do it. Mm-hmm. And so like that's why it took me so long, because it's like, well, I don't want to be seen as weak. I don't want to be seen as asking for help. And also, despite what my social media platform says, I'm a very introverted person. So like on social media, I'm very extroverted because it's easy to like type things and have a persona on social media. But in person, like, I don't like small talk. I don't like talking to people. I don't like sharing my feelings. Like I'm very different that way. And so I don't like the idea of therapy because I don't like talking about my feelings. Also, growing up in a mainly single parent household, my mom didn't ask me about how I was feeling, how I was doing. So I also didn't have the tools. I don't even know how to share my feelings, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then in my marriage I was married to my husband for 21 years. We were together for 27, the father of my 4 kids. In that relationship, I didn't really have a voice. And then when I started to have a voice, that's when the marriage started to dissolve because I started to speak up for myself. So then there's all of that, right? So then it's like, well, when I started to speak up, then it became a problem. So then there's trauma from that. So it's like, there's all of those things. But then when my relationship with my fiance ended, I was like, okay, like, I know that it was a breaking point that it was like, I know I need to do this. And so I felt like at that point, I didn't really have a choice. And then I was like, despite the stigma, despite whatever, like this is something that I have to do to save myself, literally. And so it was kind of a no-brainer. And then also, I think now it's a little bit better in terms of the stigma that, you know, it's just something that is needed. And also, I reached out to saw my therapist through Anesis, and I knew that I wanted an African American female therapist because I wanted somebody who could relate to me. And so that's been very helpful. And your therapist makes all the difference in the world. I think if you have a good therapist, regardless of, you know, their race or background, like that, you know, really, really helps. So it just, I guess to answer your question, I reached a breaking point where it was like, I knew that based on all the trauma in my life that in order to be healthy, I had to go to therapy.
So when you go there, then were you nervous as all get out the first
yeah.
time?
Well, because I'm like, what is the first time going to be? Am I going to have to like spill my 45 years of life in one? Like, how do you start? Like, how do you start a therapy session? You know? So yeah, I was very nervous, but it started with assessments, and I was like, oh, what the hell are these assessments I got to do? Like answer all these questions, which I mean, makes sense, right? Because she needs a baseline of, you know, where I'm at. But my therapist, like, she's great. And it wasn't your typical, at least in my previous experience, of just we're talking the entire time. She's like, we're going to do yoga, we're going to play games, we're going to do these different things, we're going to learn coping skills. And I was like, oh, so this is not what I thought. Like it's a lot different than previous therapy experiences that I've had. So yeah, so it's been a great experience. Yeah. And I look forward to therapy every day. I have therapy this afternoon and I'm looking forward to it. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you go in with kind of like what you want to talk about that day? Like, do you have an idea, or do you let yourself be guided, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Like sometimes I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, all this stuff happened last week. Like I need to talk about all of this stuff. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't know what. And she's like, oh, well, I do. I have these questions to ask you because I was thinking about this, and this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then sometimes I go in wanting to talk about stuff, and she's like, no, we need to unpack this from last week because you said this. And I really need to focus on, you know, what you said because you avoided this thing. So it's both.
Have you gotten to that point yet where, so I would say I have 3 significant like therapists in my toolbox that are historical for me, and then 1 present. But I love when you get to that point where like she really knows a lot of the story. So she's putting the pieces together. There is not a lot of repetition where like she knows what you're talking about when you start going down that lane.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, we're definitely there. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for just opening up about this, because I know it's one of the things that inspired your writing of this book was just actually sitting on the couch and what you're gaining through it. Were you inspired to write almost like right away, early on, or what was that like?
It was pretty early on because, like I said, I needed to process like what was happening in therapy. And what I started to do was I started to write, I post on Facebook after each session about like, so this happened. And it was kind of in my sarcastic, funny humor that I do. But even after that, so like I would write like a little snippet about like what happened in therapy. And then I still wasn't sleeping very well. So I was like, well, I still need to process it. So I would, start to write a little bit more. And then I was like, maybe I can turn this into like a little book or so. So I'd write a little bit more. And then that's what I started to do. And yeah, I'm already writing the second one. And I mean, I don't know how many there'll be because I mean, it's short, right? It's only like 39 pages because I was like, well, let me stop here. Because I was so anxious to like get it out just to see what people would think. I mean, because it could be, I don't know, like when do you stop a book like this? Because I mean, this is so easy to write because it's literally my life. And it's like after each session, it's little chapters and then it's kind of like anecdotes. So it's different than like writing something that's abstract, right? I just decided to just keep writing it and turn it into a book. And then I also wrote a guided journal to go with it, which I haven't really talked about much, but it was at my book launch. But yeah, I wrote a guided journal to go with it that has, the first half of it has prompts. And then the second half is just like a free write just to kind of go with the book, which has been helpful. My daughter really likes that. It was actually her idea.
I love that. Do you write like by hand? Are you on your laptop? What's your writing style?
Yeah, on my laptop. Yeah, because it's easier to type in. And like this one, like I don't even know how many versions there were because I started like the before the couch section. I didn't have that before. It was just like the therapy sessions. And then I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like I need to talk about like how I got here, like set the backstory. So yeah, I write on the computer. It's much easier. I just, in my bed and just where I am now and then just, type.
Yeah. Yeah. You had offered like out there the opportunity to be a beta reader. And I was like, oh, I'm all about this. It was interesting when I got it in my inbox. This would have been like it was right around my spring break. I remember that because I work in schools. I started reading it and it is such a great mixture of exactly what you're talking about, of the real and the raw and the humor. But I was finding myself like laughing my ass off at certain parts and then also just like pausing in the connection that I had to your therapeutic experience, right? So you really kind of have this both and of your personality coming through in this humor, but also just this realness that comes through.
Yeah, definitely. I'm serious, but also unserious at the same time.
You got to be with some of the content you put out for sure.
Yeah, I know. And I try to make it like not so heavy, but I mean, it's also real, right? Like it's my life. And so I feel like I do a good job of being a little bit of both. But yeah, I mean, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
Like that's just me. So
I love it. So then you have this collection and you're writing it. And then what was the nudge? Because I'm thinking a lot of my listeners are people who are on the edge of writing a book or thinking about writing a book. It sounds like it was a pretty clear like signal to you internally, like I want to put this out there beyond Facebook or beyond social media, right? Like
yeah.
So did you just publish through Amazon or how did that work?
Yeah, I did Amazon KDP. And honestly, the hardest part of writing the book was formatting the cover. Like, it was easy to write it. It was easy to find people to read it and edit it. But, like, the cover part on Amazon was, like, the toughest part because just the formatting, the way they do it. Because, I mean, I reached out to literary agents, to, like, do all that process. But it's really hard. At least I found it really hard to try to get someone. So I was like, yeah, I'll just self-publish. Like Amazon, it's really easy to do that online to, upload your manuscript. I did the cover through Canva myself. That was really easy to do, pick colors and all that. I mean, I already had the vision in my head of what I wanted it to look like. I sit on a blue couch in therapy, but purple is my favorite color, so I use purple instead. I like gold. So like all of that was easy, right? I already had that in my head of what I wanted it to look like. And yeah, I mean, Amazon makes it really easy and then you just upload it. I have a Kindle version on Amazon as well. I'm going to do an audiobook. So like that's what I'm working on next for the book. I think that would be fun to have. People are into audiobooks these days for like trips and stuff like that. So I think that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, Amazon is really easy to self-publish.
So if somebody's sitting and listening to this and they're thinking like, oh, I don't know, that feels overwhelming. You're saying go for it. It's not that don't overcomplicate.
Yeah, not at all. And on Amazon, they have like a full section of like, they can walk you through on how to do everything. It's very easy to like follow the steps on how to do that.
And was your publishing process with the journal similar? Making it in Canva and then?
Oh yeah, all the same.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thinking about, going back into the therapy piece, and as you think about the stories that you shared in your couch confessions, is there one, like, was there a turning point or like a real aha early on or something that you look back and you're like, okay, this is when this like really clicked for me or something lit up for me that I knew I was making some progress?
I think just when my therapist said, that I should not necessarily worry about, I mean, because I don't want to say most people, but I think a lot of people tend to worry about what others think. Mm-hmm. And when my therapist was like, it's okay to worry about the perceptions, but at the end of the day, like you're the one living your life. And so you just have to do what's best for you. And which I've always had that in the back of my mind, right? Because I was worried about what people are going to think sometimes about my posts. But then I became like, you know what? I really don't care. Which is why I became so vulnerable with my posts. Because like I said about the, just posting the positive and the funny stuff. But then I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm really going through something. And there might be somebody who's going, even if it's just one person that sees it and says, oh, that's, I can relate to that. I'm going through something similar. And then, like I said, there were many more that related to that. So my therapist was like, you have to stop worrying about what other people are thinking. Mm-hmm. And so to hear that validation from a professional, versus just your friends is different,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a lot about how, I know we're kids of the 90s, right? Like teens, we were 90s teens. And when I think about who we were becoming and how we were creating ourselves in the 90s, like pre-internet, was really our high school experience. And now I think all the time about how kids as young as 10, 11, 12, really, if they put their false birthday in for social media, right? They're already creating a virtual persona, and like growing up with a digital version of themselves. And I feel so grateful that I got to sort of come of age and like be a young adult and do some of my exploring of who I was before that digital version.
Mm-hmm.
But I can very much relate with the sensitivity around the vulnerability of like how we present, and even in this platform, right? Like I think I have shared a little bit about my art making or my painting or my writing, but once you put a microphone in front of you, you're really sharing a whole new part of yourself and the way that you think and the way that you process the world. So I can see how that insight of like release, let go. And I would say this producer of this podcast was something similar. When she was pushing me to start the podcast, I was like, I don't know, like, what if it's a failure? What if it's something that I try and for any number of reasons, right? Like I can't get it going, or the conversations are difficult, whatever it was that I was nervous about. And she was like, Bets, I think you need to be seen trying. Like be seen trying.
Yeah.
And that feels like a theme that comes up for you too, right? Mm-hmm. Of like,
absolutely. Yeah.
And the value of taking the risk. I'm so grateful now. In September, it'll be a year that this podcast has been going on. And awesome. Just the richness of conversations and also the inspiration that you all are to me as a writer as well. Something that you would probably find funny. So for a long time, I've been talking about this like memoir around what it was like growing up and then kind of coming out of that religion that I was immersed in as a child, and now I'm no longer really attached to in the same way as an adult. Mm-hmm. And then I started reading similar memoirs like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That's too much. Yeah. That is too much.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't want to hurt my parents. There's that too.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started compiling my poetry. So I'm in a poetry writing group and we meet monthly, and I'm pulling together all this work mainly for the last 5 years. So if you think about that, that's 2020 pandemic to present, right?
Yeah.
And I look at the compilation, I finally pull it together, and it's, dozens of pages. I'm reading this and I'm like, oh no, it is all sad.
Oh.
So I go to my girls in my writing group and I'm like, hold on, am I a sad writer? It was funny because the very first guest that I had on this show, her name is Jen, and she's an incredible poet. And she looks at me kind of and she's like, like she's like, well, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be a sad writer. Right. So then I was on a walk with a friend and we were talking about my dating life and we were talking about, just what's going on. And he just goes, well, whatever happened with Hot Dad? And because I have nicknames for everybody, right?
Okay.
But as soon as he said that, it was like fireworks went off. And I was like, that would be a great title for a book, whatever happened with Hot Dad, and have it be like an episodic memoir of like dating in my 40s. So that is right now, that's what's lighting me up the most, because I do want to have some like fun with the writing,
Yeah. Right.
And I think that there's a piece where like I have funny stories of like whatever and nicknames for everyone, which I'll have to change some details.
So funny. Right. Not to expose anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to have fun with it too. And I think that that's a piece in your writing, that there is this combination of super depth in what you're sharing, but also just this levity that it's fun to read. So tell me about your second book that you're thinking about.
Well, I mean, it's just a continuation of therapy. So like it's in chronological order. So it literally goes into like the next section. So like the second book right now is a continuation on. So like right now, me and my therapist are talking about my mom and the divorce. Mm-hmm. So it's, it just continues on into like the next kind of topics of what we're talking about. So it'll be,
Yeah.
Next, more topics.
Well, I know I want to respect your introverted self, and the fact that you're coming on here is amazing. I want to close with, you're doing something called Quotes from the Couch, which is 30 days of kind of pulling from your writing. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, just to kind of engage people a little bit. Sadly, it hasn't been really as engaging as like my therapy posts, which I haven't done lately because my therapist has kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus. So I'm excited to go back to therapy today and then get those going again. But yeah, just to kind of engage people just in like some of the content in the books. Like I'll take like a quote from the book and then just post a little bit about it. Just to like hopefully, just get some visibility out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you mind riffing on a couple? I pulled a few up,
sure.
and I was thinking you could give me a couple. Okay.
Absolutely.
So how about on day 3, you said, therapy didn't save me, it gave me the tools. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So, because I think there's this notion out there, or at least, for myself, that people go to therapy to be saved and therapy will, help them with whatever problems that they have. And so when I said therapy didn't save me, it gave me the tools, it really helped me. Okay, this is what you need to do, in terms of whether it's communication or whatever. It helped me see what questions I need to ask myself. It helped give me space to actually answer those questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gave me the coping skills to deal with the issues that I have. That's what I meant when I said that it gave me the tools.
Yeah, I love that. What about healing doesn't always look like progress? Sometimes it looks like taking a nap, ignoring texts, and saying no without guilt.
Yeah. And the saying no without guilt thing is huge for me because I sometimes tend to be a people pleaser and it's hard to say no. And so sometimes in healing, it is saying no to people or to doing things. And I put that out there too, because I know a lot of people have a hard time with that. And so that's a big deal to be able to set a boundary and say like, no, I can't do that. No, I can't take on that extra task, or, no, I'm not going to do that thing for you. Or no, I'm not going to answer that phone call right now. Like not everything has to be done right away, right? Like you cannot respond to that text right now. You can, give yourself grace and come back to that later.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally, on a quick riff, sometimes I don't want to be strong.
Yeah. I don't and I said in my book too, like sometimes I don't want to be strong. I just want to lay there and let someone else carry the weight of the world and, just cry in my bed for 20 minutes or lay on the floor or, like, cause it's a lot. And like I talked about before, like there's this, I think Black women, we carry a lot and there's this notion that we have to be strong and we can't be seen breaking and that we have to, like before a couple years ago, there was this notion going around of the strong Black woman. And it's like, but why? Like, why do we have to be, Why can't we put the weight down? Why can't we receive help or ask for help? And like, that's something that I struggle with, is asking for help. So that's what I mean. Like, I don't want to be strong all the time and we shouldn't have to be. Now I need to work on that, but by me putting it out there, it helps remind myself that I don't always have to be.
I think so much of my learning too, as I'm hearing you and just being reminded of things of my own journey, is the way I just talk to myself, right? Like it's not even just what I'm doing in the world or how I'm presenting or how I'm being, but like that in that moment when I want to lay down and rest, or in the moment where I'm dissolving into tears, or, is just like holding space for myself, and letting myself just fall apart and then going, hey babe, like it's not always going to be this way.
Yeah. Like it's okay to rest.
Yeah. Clutching this book kind of to your heart now, 6 months, maybe later, from a very different, 6 months ago, a different point for you. What do you think right now is something that's giving you hope and joy in the process where you are, just helping so many people and inspiring so many through your story?
Just hoping that others will see something in themselves that they can also, take a break and sit down and know that they don't have to do it all, and that they can take a break and take my advice, even if I don't take it myself, because it's hard. I feel like we give better advice than we take, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And just see that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where should they look for you? Where can they find your book?
So they can find my book on Amazon. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. And they can follow me on social media, Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you're most often on Facebook? Is that kind of your main platform? Okay.
Yeah. Main platform is Facebook.
Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes. April,
Awesome.
it's been a joy, honestly, to follow your journey and to see you not only showing up for yourself and on that blue couch, but sharing it. It's doing a lot of good for the people around you and probably people you don't even know,
Oh,
so I'm really inspired by it, and I'm just so grateful for this time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
By Firelight is a Lit Path Studios production and is produced by Jamie Gale and Betsy Delzer. Music is by Legito Music and Pond 5. Thank you for being a part of our beautiful collection of stories.